Hi friends, my name is Quori-Tyler and I'm so excited about this video. It is my first ever booktube video. We're here. I'm gonna jump into it because you don't care about a long intro. So these are the 7 books that I read in May. We have all our lovely books right here. I'm missing one of the books because I did like a little book exchange with my friend and I switched off with her with one of the books I read in May. Should I put it in the order that I read it? Oh, but I guess it should be. It's really hard being a booktuber, like. Okay, do you guys care that this is here like this? Like, what am I trying to hide, right? All right, that's good enough. Okay, first book that I read in May, I actually started this end of April, but finished it in May, is A Court of Mist and Fury. If you know me, if you follow my Bookstagram account, or even my regular Instagram account, you know that I am quite literally obsessed with the Court of Thorns and Roses series. I read Court of Thorns and Roses in April, and then I picked this book up right away because I just had to. This is an incredible book. I gave this one a 4-star, maybe like a 4.5. The beginning was honestly a little slow for me. I'm not gonna lie. The beginning was a little slow for me. It was very close to a 5-star. It took me a while to get through the first 30%. But then after that, it was absolutely beautiful. I don't want to spoil anything since this is the second book, but if you know, you know. Let's just say Valaris. Once she gets to Valaris, things change for the better. I'm absolutely obsessed with Sarah J. Maas's writing. If you are looking to get into fantasy, I would definitely recommend starting with the Court of Thorns and Roses series. It's a very easy series to get into, and it just like sucks you in and kind of makes you understand the world of like fae, fairy, all of that kind of stuff, which to me sounded daunting, and I was like, I don't think I'll ever get into a fantasy book, but honestly, this is just, and if you love a romance book, there's a subplot of romance in this as well, so definitely highly recommend. Okay, next up we have Daisy Haites. Oh my gosh, you guys, I have an unpopular opinion, not about this book, just about this series in general. So obviously I started with the Magnolia Parks. This is the second book in the Magnolia Parks series. And so I started with the first Magnolia Parks book. Then it took me a while. I loved that book so much, I gave it a 5-star. It took me a while to pick up Daisy Haites just because I loved Magnolia so much that I was like, I don't know if I care to read about a different character. And also we barely get Daisy in the first book. Like I think there's maybe 1 or 2 scenes with her. So I didn't really know her as a character, so I didn't care to read about her story. You guys, was I wrong? This book was better than Magnolia Parks. Like if I could give this a 6-star, I would give it a 6-star. I love Daisy Haites as a main character. I mean, this book is 3 perspectives, so it's Daisy, Christian, and Daisy's brother Julian. Unpopular opinion about that as well, coming soon. But I feel like Daisy kind of still is the main character. Her storyline is intertwined throughout every single chapter, whether it's her perspective or not. But I feel like Daisy as a main character was such a stronger main character than Magnolia Parks. Magnolia, there was just like a lot of decisions she made that I didn't agree with, even though that's what kind of made me like the book, because I was like tugging, just trying to make her make the right decision. But Daisy Haites, I feel like Daisy knows who she is. She's in medical school, so that was really cool at a young age. She graduated early. Like, I feel like there was just so much more substance to Daisy. And the love story in this is less toxic. It still is toxic, but less toxic than Magnolia Parks. So I feel like I was able to root for them a little bit more. I highlighted so many things in here. And I want to get like those tabs that people do and tab it up so I can just go back and reread some of the lines. Jessa Hastings' writing is absolutely beautiful. It is very much like stream of consciousness. So you just feel like you're reading someone's thoughts, and I think it just makes it super easy to read. Highly recommend getting into the Magnolia Parks universe. Just know, like everyone says, it's a toxic romance, blah, 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 blah. I don't agree with any of the stuff that they do. All those disclaimers that you've heard about the Magnolia Parks universe. It's just a book. At the end of the day, it's just a book. Nobody's perfect. Oh, I forgot to say my unpopular opinion about Julian's perspective. I liked Julian as a character. I just felt like I didn't need his perspective. Like his chapters could have been taken out of this book and I don't think it would have made a difference for me. I still would have rated it 5 stars. I didn't hate his perspective. I just felt like it wasn't always necessary. It did set up a lot of backstory for us. So a lot of his stuff didn't have much dialogue. It was more just like what happened to him and Daisy as children, and kind of like his thought process of what he does now, because he's a drug lord. I don't know if he's a drug lord. I think so. Like steal stuff and like mafia kind of vibe. I just don't know if I necessarily needed it, but I hear in the Daisy Haites Undoing, which is the 4th book in the series, people are loving Julian, so I can't wait to get to that book. All right, next book. This is where things went a little bit downhill for me, which I'm so sad. I got into the Dreamland Billionaires series. Dreamland Billionaire series is a series about 3 different brothers, so each book is following the life of the 3 brothers. Their family owns like a Disneyland, but it's called Dreamland, and their grandfather dies, and in the will basically says in order to own part of the company or to be CEO, whatever it is for each brother, they have to do a certain task. And so I read about the first brother, who is Rowan, and his task is to basically update the park to make it better. Like, what can we do to update the park to make it better? Dual perspective, we have Rowan and then one of his workers, Zara. I loved Zara. I thought she was a great character. Sometimes, like, she annoyed me a little bit maybe, but I don't know, like, sorry. Let's get back to the point. I rated this a 3-star and like 3.5 if I'm being nice, but I think I would only say 3.5 because everyone else loves this so much. I didn't connect to them. Like, I feel like it was almost like insta love, but not really. It was like insta love in their minds. Like, all of a sudden they met each other and like Rowan was obsessed with Zara, and I'm like, okay, but like, can we get the backstory of like, why do you like this girl so much? Like, you don't even know her. She just walked into the meeting. The whole time I was kind of skeptical about like why they really even like each other. There was a lot of lines that I liked in this book that Rowan said, but I just liked them as lines, not necessarily because I felt the chemistry and love between him and Zara. So that's where I stand with this. It was a good book. It was an easy read. I liked Lauren Asher's writing. I'll probably finish the series, but I'm not dying to pick up the next book, which is Terms and Conditions. Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, I just don't understand the hype, really, I guess is what I'll say. I don't fully understand the hype. I'm not fully sold. Not fully sold. I would still recommend someone to read this. If you're like a Disney adult, this is for you. Maybe that's why. I'm not a Disney girl, and no hate to everyone who's a Disney adult, Disney person. The dreaminess of this wasn't there for me, I guess, necessarily. I'm talking a lot about a book I don't like, and I'm just trying to justify it to you, and I don't think I need to do that. So let's move on. Next up, we have Normal People by Sally Rooney. This was an incredible book. The way she wrote this was, it's really just like literary fiction with like a little bit of romance, but the romance isn't like tropey, you know what I mean? It's more just you're reading about these 2 people's lives. So basically we're following Connell and Mary Ann throughout their lives from high school to college to post-college and all that stuff. And they kind of just have something that's tugging them towards each other always. Mary Ann in high school was like very outcasted, bullied. People did not like her. No one wanted to talk to her. While Connell was kind of like more in the popular group. Connell's mom worked for Mary Ann's family. She like cleaned their houses because Mary Ann was very rich. And so they like kind of formed a chemistry, but they can't talk while they're in school. And like Mary Ann understands that, which is so bad. But she understands that like Connell can't talk to her, even though they like are developing feelings for each other outside of school. And then we go to college and it kind of like switches. So Mary Ann becomes the more popular one. Connell's having a hard time making friends, and we're just following their life. I gave this one a 3.5 that I could round up to a 4, mainly because like sometimes I got a little bit bored, but that's just because literary fiction is not necessarily like my jam fully. Like Lessons of Chemistry is the last literary fiction that I read, and that comes to mind, and I hated that book so much because I don't know, like I need some kind of like ultimate thing that we're getting to, and this doesn't really lead to anything like ultimate, you know? Like that's why I love romance so much, because at the end it's like, do they get together, will they, won't. Literary fiction kind of is just like, and this is what happened. And even though this book was super short, it took me a little bit longer to read it just because but it was a beautifully written book. There's no quotation marks in this book, which is actually so crazy to me. In the beginning it kind of annoyed me, but after a while I didn't even notice it. I think everyone, if you're a reader, you should read this book just to like have it in your arsenal. So yeah. Okay, then things got good. Then we went to The Neighbor Favor, and I went into this book very hesitant. It's been on my TBR for a while. The reason I haven't picked it up is because, I don't know, I just like was scared to read it, I guess, a little bit. It's by a Black author, Christina Forrest, and it's about 2 Black main characters, which I'm very excited. I need to, and I want to read more books about like Black love and Black people written by Black authors, because I just feel so connected to it, and this book proved that. Like, I felt like I could see myself as the main character, and it just made my soul and my heart so happy. This book is about a girl who is a publisher, and she wants to be a publisher for children's books, but right now she's stuck publishing like memoirs and nonfiction. but she reads a book that she absolutely loves by this author who has a pen name, and then she ends up emailing that author and they go back and forth. What I love about this book the most is the beginning part of the book is all of their email. You're just going through and reading the email exchanges. Every single email that they wrote to each other, that's how you start the book off, is by reading that. And the emails were probably the best part of this book. You can really feel their connection forming, and it kind of starting from just like a silly, goofy email to like, wait, these people like actually are soulmates. He ends up stopping responding, but then he moves to New York where she lives. They end up living in the same place. He realizes that it's her. She doesn't realize that it's him. And so we're going through that whole storyline, and it's really interesting. And then you can only imagine what the third act breakup was in this. I won't give any spoilers. Compared to the fine print, I really felt their chemistry a lot more. And that's what I love in a romance book. Like, for me to feel like, yeah, these two people do belong together. I like that the author showed two different sides of growing up as a Black person. There's not just like one stereotypical way that a Black person grows up. One was rich, one was not, came from a broken family, one came from a family that's very much still together. And I love that she was able to show both of those things, because like being Black, there's not just like one box that you can put us in. Yeah, I love this book so much. I will reread this book in my lifetime for sure, because it was beautiful. And I heard a lot of mixed reviews going into it, so I was kind of scared, but like, I don't know where that came from. 5 out of 5. Chef's kiss. Okay, before we get to the last book I read, I also read Meet Me by the Lake by Carly Fortune. Unfortunately, this was a bit of a flop for me. I loved Every Summer After. Sorry, I'm like getting over a cold, so I absolutely loved Every Summer After by her. So I thought Meet Me by the Lake would be like I was just going back home. You know what I mean? Don't be fooled that the two covers of Every Summer After and Meet Me by the Lake look so similar. The books have nothing to do with each other. Quite literally nothing to do with each other. Get Every Summer After out of your head. Meet Me by the Lake is its own completely different book, which I don't mind. I just feel like the covers are a little misleading. Like, why do they look the same? It's past and present timeline, which typically I like. I liked in Every Summer After, but with this one it didn't really work for me, because the past timeline is when the two main characters meet and they spend 24 hours together. I think it's even less than 24 hours. They spend one day together, and then the present timeline is when they meet. I think it's like 10 or so years later. The past didn't do it for me. I almost wish she just told us that they met in the past and like we just had to believe that they fell in love in that day, because when I was reading the past, I was like, so when do they fall in love? Because I'm not seeing chemistry. I felt no connection. I don't understand how these two people can fall in love, and maybe I'm not a hopeless romantic and that's why, but I just, what? Like, I'm supposed to believe that these two people fell for each other? There's a trope in Every Summer After that is very highly debated on whether or not like it should be in the book. And I figured there's no way Carly Fortune does that again, but Carly Fortune did that again. And personally, in Every Summer After, I didn't mind it that much because I felt their chemistry there. And this one, I was kind of like, it's getting a little icky. It's getting a little icky, tricky, and weird. That one fell flat for me. I gave that a 3 out of 5 stars, and it's like a 3, like you just made it to 3, like you're a 2.9, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't recommend to read it. Like, honestly, it's not one of those books where it's like, I didn't like it, but like you should read it. It wasn't that good. Like, I don't think you'll have that much fun of a time. Read something else. There's so many books out there. And like, I think you can do better. That's just me as a friend telling you, like. All right, to switch up gears, we ended the month. I literally just finished reading this actually yesterday, which was June 1st. A Court of Wings and Ruin. This is the longest book I've ever read, 699 pages. Sarah J. Maas, what are you doing? But I loved every single second. So, A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury, I gave them both 4 stars, between 4 and 4.5 stars. This one is a 5-star for me. A lot of people in reviews say that this book is where it like kind of falls flat. Everyone loves Mist and Fury the most. This was my favorite book. Wings and Ruin was my favorite book. And I honestly can't say much about it because it would be a spoiler, because this is the 3rd book in a series. Let me know if you want me to do like another video with spoilers talking about this book, or talking about this whole series that I've read so far, because this was incredible. The way, you guys, I was crying last night. There's no way. At one of the things that happened, like, I hate that I can't even talk about it. It was just so good. So this one is a little bit more about war, which, by the way, ACA war. Aka war. Did she do that on purpose? But anyways, it's mostly about war. I thought I wouldn't like it because like who wants to read about war? Like most certainly not me. But the way she did it, war is not even like, so in the beginning we're getting like the prep for the war. Then in the middle we get like a little war, and then they go back to regular, and then at the end there's like lots of war. But because it wasn't all war, I think I was able to really follow along. And the war stuff was actually pretty like action packed, and like I felt like I was in it. It was making sense. Lots of big like plot twists and misdirects and all that stuff. So there was a lot going on in this book, and because there was a lot going on, 699 pages almost felt like not enough. Like I could have read another 300 pages of this book and I would have been totally fine. This was actually my favorite read of the month, between this and Neighbor Favor, but I'd probably give it to A Court of Wings and Ruin. What a beautiful book. The next one, the only thing is that the next book is A Court of Frost and Starlight, which is like the little novella. And I believe that's more like a wintry book. So I wish I could read it in the winter, like around Christmas time. I feel like that would be such a cute, cozy vibe. But we're literally about to start summer. Like, what are we doing? Someone tell me in the comments, can I read A Court of Silver Flames and then read A Court of Frost and Starlight later? Like, is that fine to read after? Or should I read Frost and Starlight before Silver Flames? All right, girlies. So those were the 7 books that I read in May. It was actually a pretty good reading month. I liked most of the books that I read. Like, I don't regret any. I'm glad. There was no like DNRs or anything like that. So such a fun book video. I'm so excited to be part of the book community. Follow my Bookstagram. It's Books with QT. Follow my TikTok. I've posted a lot of book TikToks on there. And yeah, I'm so excited. I love being a book girly. I love you guys so much. I'm so excited to make more book videos. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, because I'm going to be posting so much more content, reading vlogs, book hauls, recommendations, blah, 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 blah. And I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys. Mwah. Love ya. Okay, now we gotta put all our books back.